interesting that some of the things you're doing, you guys in there can just mute me. I didn't touch any button. Yeah. All right. So we are excited about our engagement with youth. Once again, we have the support of our international partners, and youth have now developed a summit outcome document, which they have presented to me. We are looking at it, and they have identified the areas that they think we, as government, we need to now put in our resources to. It's very clear to us what we must do, and we want to support them, create a future that they desire as our youth. And I think we need to lower our participation in creating the future and let them create a future Lesotho. So that's an idea. I'm not quite sure how we are going to work on that, but they need government support, and we have identified how we should assist them, and we are very keen and enthusiastic about engaging with them and letting them define the future that they want, with government providing support. But what I want to now invite you on is, you have the experience that they need. We can provide the mentoring, business mentoring. They are young, they will move in directions, they will make some mistakes in that they could have avoided without mentoring. So let's all come together and support them. The initiative is very powerful. Let us support it. Now, obviously, going forward, as I already said, we will sign compact to sometime in March next year. We have both European Union and UNDP also supporting us. I think we will look at additional financing in the coming year with them. Critically, the important thing is sustaining the meetings going forward. And what will sustain the meeting going forward? Well, what will sustain the meetings going forward, frankly, is our focus on deal flow. What are the projects? What are the projects that we should be working together on? We need to develop that pipeline, and that is the anchor on which there will be mutual accountability. So we have looked at these different things, supportive things, but now with all the support and the arsenal of support that we have put together, let us now focus on what matters: an investment going into reality, a business starting, youth projects starting. And I think 2022 should now be the focus of our dialogue. I must say, in the last 7 months, we have managed to develop 21 projects together. And that is now what I think should be the focus of 2022, ensuring that those projects start and begin to create jobs. We, in this process, we developed 6 projects in manufacturing, 3 in tourism, 8 in agriculture, and 4 in technology and innovation. In future, we'll share with you exactly what these projects are, but we are working with the promoters of the projects, and at the right time when they can be disclosed, we will then share with you what is on our table. We will continue with roundtables. So the next one is on agriculture investment. So early in 2022, we are going to strike with a roundtable on agriculture, including high value agriculture and the opportunities in high value crops. We'll continue our process of removing obstacles, but I think we have now reached a point at which we understand how the obstacles are emerging, and we are in a position now to avoid creating new obstacles. We have developed a momentum now that is going to lower and limit putting obstacles in the way of investment. One critical impediment to future investment is still the operationalization of the Lesotho Standards Institution. Minister Mlapa has committed that he's going to push harder for this institution to be fully operational next year. Now, on one of the things that we have observed in the 7 months is the plurality of investment supporting institutions. We have also looked at international best practice. I shared with you earlier that there is 13 government agencies that support business investment in Lesotho, and 13 is still just too much. So we also are implementing a one-stop shop concept. But so it's a bit of an enigma that we are implementing a one-stop shop process, and we still have 13, and we are okay with having 13, even though we are subscribing to one-stop shop process. In terms of the architecture going forward, and we are looking at how we can make this work. The idea is a bit radical for some people, but we are thinking of a single agency, a single investment promotion agency, from which you can get all the investment information and services. One such agency. And this would involve repurposing LNDC, bringing LNDC, BEDCO, Tourism Corporation under a single investment promotion agency. So whatever investment agency, investment information that you need, you go to one organization, and that organization can deal with large and small investors within one building or within one agency. The advantage of that is that there are common services to all investors, regardless of size or sector. And you derive efficiencies if all those services are created in one institution rather than duplicating them across 13 different institutions. So that's an idea that we need to take forward, have one agency, and as I said, this accords very well with international best practice. Second is another agency on development finance. That would be an additional agency that focuses almost entirely on finance. Our architecture includes different kinds of funds. Mr. Mkuku is running a number of financing instruments in his office. The Minister of Small Business is running another one. Banks are running another one. So all those things are scattered across the landscape, yet we agree that you get better efficiencies if you could put all of these things under one roof and then manage the architecture then to address the plurality of the needs of business, be it small or be it agriculture or tourism. It's better and more efficient that way. So I foresee an architecture, a two-agency architecture that will bring every investment service into that architecture. So for example, an investor comes to Lesotho, registers a business in Lesotho, and is coming from outside. That investor needs a residency permit. It needs a visa, an investment visa, needs a residency permit, needs a work permit. But those permits are provided by two different ministries. One ministry will say, yes, we will give you. The other ministry say, no, I won't give you this. That is not necessary because neither ministries are actually focusing on investment. These are the responsibilities given here is given to non-investment ministries, and they don't look at these permits in the context of investment. They look at these permits in the context of law enforcement, of regulation, regardless of what the permits are needed for. So we are coming across these difficulties where one ministry is on and the other one is off. So that architecture will make things flow better. And once again, we are not inventing a wheel here. This has already been done in countries that are performing better than us. And I think we need to study dialogue of pushing in that direction. On the Dubai, it's very interesting meetings from, I wasn't there but I've received reports of Dubai. Two projects, and not two, but 4 projects are apparently coming out of Dubai, and the participants, the business participants in Dubai are themselves very excited, and they want to push things and push them very fast. One idea they have is what is now called the Trans-Maluti Highway linking Free State and KwaZulu-Natal. The idea is that instead of going around Lesotho when you are from Bloemfontein and going to Durban, or instead of Basotho going through Maseru Bridge or Fixback, going around Harrismith and then coming back again into Durban, we can just tunnel through some of the mountains here and go straight and direct in the most direct line to Durban. So that project seems to have received some support in Dubai, and the private sector team is working on that idea. The second one is about the expansion of the airport. I must tell you, the governments, they go into business as well. They go into reorganizing the economy of Lesotho. So we must. The amendment is now a public document, and I would propose that you seek it and you try to share with us the comments that you may have, because what we are doing now is recreating Lesotho for the next 50 years and leaving behind the Lesotho for the last 50 years. And Lesotho for the next 50 years, it must be a Lesotho that is embraced by our young people. Thank you very much for your attention, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister. Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister, for that comprehensive report and for the words of reassurance. And words of reassurance in that you are committing to this process going forward. Sustainability of the Prime Minister's delivery unit, as you mentioned, is critical. Reforms are a continuous process, and therefore the Prime Minister's delivery unit should be sustained and institutionalized. That is very encouraging, Honorable Prime Minister. We also understand from your remarks that strong collaboration between public and private sector should continue to remove mistrust that exists. And I think the level of mistrust, I believe the level of mistrust over the past 7 months has been reduced significantly as a result of this interaction that you have facilitated. You have highlighted many achievements. The webinars, tourism, where we have latent potential, revitalization of the manufacturing sector. And interestingly, these webinars didn't just happen. These webinars, the results of these webinars were not just talk shows. They are now being translated into the design of a new competitiveness and financial inclusion project to be financed by the World Bank. And this project should be ready for implementation around June next year. So there are concrete actions. I also recall, Honorable Prime Minister, that the very first session that you facilitated was on vaccinations, COVID-19 vaccination. That you led that dialogue, which resulted in a strategy for vaccination. And I must say, that very dialogue that you facilitated has led to this achievement that we see, that vaccination rates in the country and the drive that the Ministry of Health has been leading, and the process that it has been leading has led to a big coverage of vaccinated segment of the population. So this is commendable, Right Honorable Prime Minister. I think you also alluded to very, very important issues, including the youth, that government is ready to support programs that are targeting youth employment, and that government has mobilized other partners. And again, this is critical, and that the youth should lead the process. And I'm happy to say, Honorable Prime Minister, that in this webinar, we have the Youth Interim Task Team that has been facilitating and organizing the Youth Summit. They are here to listen to you, to know that they are not just youth, but they are citizens of the country and they are part of us. We thank you for that, Honorable Prime Minister. The pipeline of projects As you rightly pointed out, we should not just be designing projects, we should implement. So this coming year will be a year of implementation. All those exciting projects, catalytic projects that came out of Dubai should be implemented. Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister. And again, I see a lot of activity in the chat box, compliments and also comments and questions and so on. And I think this session, given that we don't have much time, would like to have discussions. I would suggest that our focus should be on how we improve this process, rather than going into the nitty-gritties or questions of issues and so on. The question that we would like to ask you is, going forward, how do we improve this process? How do we strengthen this process? Is the fortnightly interaction adequate? What other mechanisms do you think should be in place to strengthen the public-private dialogue so that there's meaningful participation of private sector? I would encourage us to focus on that rather than on nitty-gritties or comments on specifics of projects. We still have a lot of time next year to continue to talk about the obstacles. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to open the floor.
Let me just come back.
Yes.
You mentioned something about vaccination, and I just thought that I should report that as of yesterday, looking at our numbers for vaccination, Lesotho is now sitting at 51. We have vaccinated 51% of our target population of 1.6 million people. We also have in reserve another 200 to 300 unused vaccines. So it's quite possible that we can continue to accelerate our vaccination drive, because we have now the vaccines that we need. We are going to start vaccinating the 12 to 17-year-olds, and we have 50,000 doses for those. But our officials are looking at exactly the targeted numbers for the young people that we are going to vaccinate. And we'll continue to go until we can get to the discussions about booster doses as well. But I just wanted to share with you that at 51%, we are ahead of many African countries, and we are ahead, of course, we're a small country, but we are ahead of our neighbor. But this has been possible because of that original discussion of getting private sector support on board, bringing the interactions, bringing in private sector players to have discussions with the Ministry of Health on what we can do. And the private sector using its ingenuity, running around and identifying where supplies can be found, the private sector committing its own resources. I must say, many of the vaccines that we have received are not gifts. They have been paid for. We know the private sector, we know Vodacom contributed a significant amount of money, and some of the vaccines we received from AVAT, the AU outfit, were purchased with the support of funding from the private sector, including Leteng, also contributed money. Sisiu, Sa Letshwele le Peter Poho have contributed a significant amount of money, as well as paid for the logistics. The 200,000 vaccines that we got from China were airlifted by Sisiu, Sa Letshwele le Peter Poho. The World Bank set aside $21 million for us to buy vaccines from Avad. So all that has been made possible by the collaboration that began in this fora. We are, although we are quite advanced by comparison with other countries, but we still have too many people unvaccinated. So at 800,000, that is another, that leaves another 800,000 that needs to be vaccinated, and that has not been vaccinated. Looking at our statistics, the positivity rate last week was 3%. This week it's 15%. There's been a big jump in positivity rates, and we are wondering what happened now. We thought we were on top of these things, but the rapid rise in positivity is worrisome. At the same time, we are observing that this rapid rise so far has not resulted in significant utilization of health facilities. So we don't have confirmation, but there's a notion that the severity of the severity of these infections is not as bad as it's been last year. We are looking at that and just being watchful. One of the things we are ensuring is happening is that every Mosotho coming home, whether through a formal border or an informal border, gets a vaccination. We know they go back to South Africa. Some have had many difficulties in getting vaccines in South Africa. And we have sent out a call that those that manage to slip in without a vaccination should know that it is their entitlement to get a vaccine before they go back to South Africa. And those, I'm appealing to anyone who has access to the WhatsApp groups of Basotho people in South Africa to let those that have come home and are not yet vaccinated to ensure that before they leave, they get vaccinated. So the vaccines that we have are available for those that live in Lesotho, but also for Basotho living in South. Like them to get vaccinated. We are really, we are not, we are at the formal borders. We are also at these informal borders. We are there. We are deployed in those areas. But it's not about law enforcement. It is about getting people vaccinated, ensuring that they don't have infections. And so we test them for COVID infections. We then, if they don't have, then we give them vaccinations. We have decided that let's ignore for now our law enforcement, so long as we can protect our people coming back home so that they can be protected when they go back to their jobs. So those are the things that we are trying to do, and we issue a call that they should know that we have vaccines for them and they should not live without getting vaccinated. It was very interesting in discussing with some of those at the Paqama gate in Tele, saying that no, we are so fearful of this thing. It turns you into some strange animal. And then I said, but look at me. Am I a strange animal? I'm vaccinated. And look at everybody in my team is vaccinated as well. See, they're normal people. We talk normally. And she said, oh, really? He said, yeah. So are you going to get a vaccination? He said, yeah, I think I'm going to get it. So very interesting human interactions. But yeah, it's a small point I wanted to also share on vaccination. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister. So clearly, our success insofar as vaccination is concerned is that the message is clear, that there is value in public-private dialogue. There's value in collaboration between government and private sector. So the dialogue has led to the success. And I must commend the Ministry of Health and UN partners, and also our private sector for this collaboration. The CU, Vodacom, let's say, and others. It is an example that public-private dialogue works. So we can use this in various sectors and we'll be ahead. The country can be transformed. Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister, for facilitating. And I must also commend the Cabinet Subcommittee on Investment Climate and Economic Reform, because they have consistently and been working very hard, meeting weekly, addressing obstacles, supporting private sector impartially, and ensuring that investments happen. So, honorable ministers, I would like to commend you for that, and I would like to commend the Prime Minister for his able leadership in ensuring that the committees are operational, and the chairperson of the subcommittee, Dr. Malapu. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I did indicate, I would like us to focus on how we can improve the process going forward, avoiding going into granular issues that can be tackled in subsequent dialogues. Let's look at how we can strengthen this process. I see a number of hands. I see Honorable Nzao Leather, Ndatela Lebitso, Ndatele Lelosa, Ngole Lelosa, and Mesekhiba, in that order. Honorable Nzao, the floor is yours, sir.
Madam Kuku, may I have the honor of greeting my Prime Minister and Timothy Major, and also for thanking him for organizing these webinars where we learn a lot about what is happening at home. My name is not a question per se, but I would like to inform the Honorable Prime Minister that Ambassador Muyani Nkupani and myself have been discussing about the possibility of AGOA ending in 2025. And I'm impressed by the fact that the Prime Minister mentioned that at Habelo, there are so many factory shells that are going to be built. And then I question myself that what's going to happen to the workers in Lesotho if AGOA ends? And there are already ongoing discussions on AGOA on that beyond 2025 when AGOA will be ending. So I want to request your Nadem Gugu to allow Nadem Gopani to say a few words to highlight us on the possibilities that we want the Lesotho government to lead discussions with the United States government regarding what is going to happen post 2025. So if you allow us to do that, we will be appreciative indeed, because we are afraid that we might lose, even though we are building factory shells, we might lose if we do not start now negotiating with the United States what will be happening beyond 2025. So I think it's the time that we should start talking about it now. And if you allow me, say, I would request you about 5 minutes or so to allow Ambassador Ngopani to sensitize us on what probably as government should do to save the jobs of Basotho beyond 2025. Remain functioning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Nzole. And I must say, you're raising a very important point. And I've been in contact with Honorable Munyane over the past couple of months. We've been communicating constantly on very important issues. He has been sending us information, very useful information about possible projects that can be financed to create jobs, especially targeting the youth and the vulnerable. And I'm really very grateful for the work that our embassies are doing out there. Honorable Munyane, the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Darem Gugu, and let me pay my respects to the Right Honorable Prime Minister and all ministers present and excellencies, distinguished private sector delegates, whose floors, whose gathering this really is. And let all protocol observed that I have been requested perhaps to say a few words about the situation regarding could be done, and let me say that I will not go into the details at this time. The fact that really the Prime Minister has given quite for this report has been quite a mouthful, and that of course, as you have already indicated, there are lots of people who want to say a word or two. But be that as it may, let me just indicate that this is the situation as we speak now. And some of us observe that, of course, the GAGOA ends in 2025, and that there may be a tendency to think that given that it ends in 2025, we still have about 3 years to go before it does end, and therefore, well, what's the worry? The worry is here. If you go onto the record, you go onto the history, you will find that we start losing jobs, we start losing any traction in terms of what is happening long before the actual expiry date. Why so? Because people, investors, especially, more especially our will start moving their imports, which are our exports, to areas where there is certainty. If they don't know what will happen in 2025, they are not going to wait until 2025 to find out whether they'll still get the benefit of getting their garments or whatever other products that you still have to go into duty free in the US, and therefore be cheaper in that particular respect. They will move into more certain markets. And this is what has happened. You can look into the history. This is what has happened with the delays in, at least as far as I was involved, in the delays in 2010 when we were looking at the third country fabric provision with the delay that came up and in 2012 when it was making or combining some of the elements of the main act itself, because AGOA is an act, the act itself and some of these provisions. And in 2015, and I'm not talking about, of course, the other external factors that have come into place as the loss of jobs we entailed in 2004 for another reason, which we may discuss at some other point out back, Chair. But that what needs to be done therefore now is to start looking at exactly how we want the AGOA to look like post 2015, and get some policy pronouncement from the US in terms of giving that assurance that things will continue. Far too often it is assumed that, of course, this is the process between governments, the African government and the US government, which is the US administration. No, it is beyond that. It is an act. It goes into the legislature. It goes into various committees of Senate. It goes into various committees of the Congress. and therefore all these parties must be canvassed long before the process comes to an end, so as not to lose customers, so as not to lose importers as we approach that end period. And let me tell you, once you have lost a customer, it's very difficult to get the customer back. So it's something that has to be done now. And it is something that also, given that there is, of course, talk now of a change naturally, there's always been changes, but the change in AGOA that a number of the private sector people who are the buyers, who are the investors we are looking towards in the US, are looking into changing the infrastructure of AGOA itself. We must be in the act in terms of that discussion, so that we make sure that it takes a shape that will be comfortable with. It takes a shape that will be comfortable for our Lesotho. In Lesotho, for instance, what must be done as immediate is making this issue public as to what AGOA is. Because when you talk about AGOA in Lesotho, people think about the Chinese and textiles, but it goes way beyond that. And the private sector, particularly, which is the sector that the Americans were looking at growing. When they talked about African Growth Opportunities Act, the private sector should have a clear indication of what exactly it is, and therefore a contribution in what it should look like, so that then it can be carried forward in the negotiations, and that have to start in earnest as of now to be able to process this thing. Another element that is important here, which should bring in the private sector into play, is the fact that we should be looking at how this will impact, how we can leverage AGOA into supporting the African continental free trade area, which of course is pillared on trade, which is a private sector, intra-African trade, which is so we should have our private sector fully in this particular discussion, so that we can see how all this matters and the negotiations in AGOA, our application towards the African free continental trade are linked, and they go on for the benefit of the Lesotho. Of course, we should be looking at also that I've talked about the negotiations, but we should also be looking into the implementation and the strategies of implementation here. I know somebody will say there is an implementation strategy that has been given massive comments by external people who have looked at them, but does our private sector know about it? Do Lesotho know about that? What is their involvement in that implementation strategy rather, and how are they brought into play to be able to make maximum benefit of this particular facility, and make maximum benefit of the negotiations and also of the implementation going forward post 2025. So these are some of the elements that perhaps for today one would like just to highlight, that perhaps there may be need for some dedicated discussion on this matter, so that we can see how their process going forward, because this is very important that we are in on the plane. We don't wait until the train has passed, only to get to the station after the train has passed. Or otherwise, we just be carried on, get a lift on the train when we should be really driving and saying exactly where we are going in this particular process. If you allow me, Chair, let me just make one comment, or some comment really on some other aspects here that were raised by the Right Honourable Prime Minister. Just pick them up, that on the purposes that he has elaborated. One of them was like accelerating investment, the other removing structural bottlenecks, and the government and private sector. I just want to bring in this particular element and join them in saying that all of this require active private sector participation, and it is comforting to see that this is growing. and that we should continue to encourage that. But that also, while we remove bottlenecks, structural bottlenecks that we all know, which sometimes we have come to accept as a norm, unfortunately. While we work towards removing those, we should not be continuing to create new ones. What am I talking about in there? That the acceptance of certain things that now that have become a norm should really we should be dealing with. In as much as we put on new improvement, this question of accepting things as normal should be looked into very carefully. For instance, just accepting that as a representative of His Majesty's government out here, as a representative of Basotho here, I cannot deal directly with a private sector player about certain issues because it is structured that you have to go through the ministry, who will then pass on the note to the next ministry, who will pass it on to the association, who will pass it on to the. By the time it gets there, it is no longer useful at all, if it gets there at all. So some of those elements that we should be looking at, and allow me as a Mosotho. As a Mosotho, and perhaps not so much as a
Honorable Munyane, can you wrap up that so that we can give others?
Thank you. Thank you. So thank you, Nadia. And let me just perhaps close there and say that some of the things that have to be improved upon is making sure that you have proper people in proper places to do that. If you are going to have negotiations, for instance, on Agua, you have to be able to have people who can do that. If you are going to have negotiations to take out investment in the WTO, in Dubai, in wherever, you have to be able to have people who are going to be do that. And you have to organize your ministry such that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs is particularly empowered and to be able to deal with this international relations issues relating to trade and investment. Thank you so much, and my apologies for being long-winded.
No, Honorable Dol, you don't have to apologize. This is a very pertinent issue. And Honorable Prime Minister, the two ambassadors, Honorable Nzaole, Honorable Munyane, are our champions as far as AGOA is concerned. And this topic is very important. We will have a dedicated session where we will engage both private sector and public sector. We know that public-private dialogue works. So this will be one of the topics in the coming year. Thank you very much for that. Honorable or Excellencies. Let me request Nadira Lebitso to deliver his remarks or questions. Nadira Lebitso, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chairperson. Honorable Prime Minister, distinguished guests. Please let it be that all protocol has been observed such that I don't take up the entirety of the time with the formalities. As to the suggestion about the way forward, whereas I had a number of questions, I'll focus my inputs on a submission on the way forward. And Honorable Prime Minister, well done on making yourself available to be engaged. We truly appreciate that and the dialogue that you facilitated. And we also welcome the idea of institutionalizing this such that it becomes part of the way things are done around here. The suggestion I would have is that coming out of a systemic delivery, that there should be a SWAT team, which as and when discussions are had here around either projects that are to be designed and implemented, once we get into implementation, that there should be a team of people that are dedicated to going into the various departments where the friction then happens, which lays waste to the many good ideas and projects that are initiated coming from here. And to this end, sir, I think there should be a wider reform of the entire governmental delivery system to ensure that it is driven on a tight and specific and measurable performance management framework. To give you an example, say, my mother's car was taken for a service and it was found that 6 of the 8 coils weren't working. The people at BMW didn't shift the one coil from the one cylinder to the other they took out the coils that don't work. So it means, therefore, that within your system, after you have your dashboards and you see where there are pockets of non-delivery, that the pockets of non-delivery moved as a barrier to progress and a waste of valuable resources. And we'll be looking to see how that progresses into the year ahead. It would also be wonderful, sir, that whereas we come here to engage in dialogue about what we can do together, it would be good to also have a specific and detailed program of action that says, to the end of the financial year, what is planned inside of government, because there can't be any pretense that only the projects that come from here are going to be what find expression in the real world. So let's understand that so that we can look at saying, what can we latch onto, what can we bring additional funding to, and where can we create youth empowerment opportunities in particular. You've done well, sir, to give us feedback on the monies that have been pumped into the Lesotho economy through the relationship with the World Bank and other such institutions. May we have something that follows the money that says that if we've gone up from 50 to 300+ million rands, where is the money? What impact is it having? What are the next steps that we should consider taking in order to ensure that there's top-up investment to ensure that we get the ultimate impacts from that, and also so that we can propose additional things which can accelerate things in progress. And to this end, we would welcome, therefore, on the vaccination program, we offered up a capability as part and parcel of the over 20 million rands that we committed both for vaccines as well as in communication to get people to vaccinate. We would like for there to be a more sound tracking mechanism, not just around COVID, because there'll be something else that will come down the line. Let's build the ability to track vaccination levels across the spectrum and everything else so that we can understand how healthy or unhealthy the nation is. That capability is on hand as part of the modern way in which governance should be implemented. And then finally, sir, on the issue of growing the economy, our borders are a mess. The Maseru Bridge in particular is a barrier to trade, it is a barrier to tourism. A number of us host very significant guests in country from time to time. To give you an example, sir, sometime in the early parts of next year, I'll be hosting 4 people who between the 4 of them are worth over 2 billion rands. The constant is they have an affinity for Lesotho. I shouldn't have to have a workaround for them to drive across in their Rolls Royces at the borders. They should be able to go to the normal interest being driven over by trucks, because every other potential investor won't come here with a special label that says that give me Juarali beads. All of those people can potentially be our next lot of investors. When they come here, it would be wonderful if I could say to them, Bundade, here are areas where the country's layer of risk to ensure that you have a ready for investment opportunity. Here's what we'll require from you. And here is what the LNDC and other institutions are going to put in. We don't have that at present. So for all the efforts that we put into say, come and invest in Lesotho, the barriers start at a very basic level of people just coming into the country and having an absolutely miserable experience. As a scholar of economics, you'll be aware of the very important political economy lesson dating back to over 200 years, wherein the United States of America, then 13 of them as 13 colonies, made a decision about their borders. South Africa, and you know that we are hit more disproportionately than the other territories. But if we don't start with the basics and creating some accountability around that, so there are many things here that you're going to attempt to institutionalize, which will die in the frustration of people just safely and effectively. Thank you. And Merry Christmas to you and the entire collective.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ralibitso. You are echoing the importance of institutionalizing the delivery units and go further to propose ensure that it becomes effective in all government agencies and we have broader reforms within the government system. And so these are the plans. In fact, this is the intention of government to ensure that there is accountability. We need to have a strong tracking tool. We already have an accountability unit led by Dr. Lettit, and we need to strengthen those M&E systems as proposed. And thank you very much for the suggestions. They are noted. I see in the Daily Lusa. The Daily Lusa, are you still there? I didn't know that.
Thank you, Ndati. Thank you, Chairman Ndati Mkuku. All protocol observed. Ndati Tunaholo. Informing presentation. I am really happy because now, within your presentation, I had two issues that I wanted to just ask or request that they be attended to. The other one, I had already sent it on the charts with the fear that the deliberations could end up without it being addressed. It was an issue of the licensing for wholesale license, which has already been addressed to on the charts there, though not fully, because it just says the Ministry of Energy is working on a new law that will simplify the procedure. So they are working on it, but I'm feeling now, wherein I'm already advanced, and then the problem is still up there. It still has to be resolved for me. And I request that with your assistance, that Chaba be able to follow it up and assist me with this problem that I'm facing. I'm passing over to the next one, which is what you raised, about the real estate. So I really got excited because the collateral really is the real estate is a means to credit availability, which is really where the problem lies a lot in Lesotho, whereby credit availability is a problem. And I'm coming from the real estate property sector, wherein I have been hitting my head against the wall for the past few years in saying there's really no regulation of property values in Lesotho, the value which is really the basis of collateral. And I've been saying that there is no law that, for an example, who is a valuer and who is recognized as a valuer. So at the moment, the values are really quite distorted because there is no statute that regulates that. So I request of you, that I think I've been to ministers since the democracy era about the statute that will regulate the values, such that when we're talking collateral and we're talking value, we know that those people are statutorily regulated. At the moment, they are valuers in Lesotho, but I tell you now, if you ask them to go and value your property, you will get different values that are so variant. And it happens because it's not regulated. And I fear for the banks and other financial institutions, because whatever they are doing it based on the values that are performed by people who are not statutorily recognized, and there will be no recourse for that. So when one raises this kind of issues, there's a notion that has to be dealt with, whereby our brothers and sisters in Lesotho feel that when you come with an idea from South Africa, you sort of like are looking at what you can chow. You know, we considered as scavengers who are, you know, scavenging on the carcass of a dead Lesotho. Lesotho is not dead. It is not a carcass. When I assist or advise on the statutory recommendation, there's nothing to chow there. There's nothing that I'm looking at there. I'm simply saying there's a gap. This gap, I see it where I'm living now. And I'm saying I live day and night because I am a property economist. And I'm saying once that is done, even the University of Lesotho and the other academic institutions of Lesotho will start teaching property economics. It's really saddening that at this juncture in 2021, there's still no institution that is, there's no institute that is teaching property economics. And if that statute that I'm talking about is established, surely that will come into being, because the council that will monitor the valuations, the valuations and property will now see which institutions are recognized to be able to like offer this important real estate kind of education. I've got a lot to say about this. That I do not follow, but
Mr. Luso, you have made your point, sir. This is a very important area. We have noted it. It's an area of reform that must go into our priority action matrix. So that point is
thank you, Chairman. Actually, I wanted to stop there exactly as you came in. I was actually just stopping. But thanks. Those are the 2 points that I wanted to raise. Yes.
2 critical issues: the issue of licensing around fuel and also the real estate regulation of property values. Those are noted. They'll go into our matrix. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ndate, for your input. Ms. Khiba.
Thank you very much, and everyone for the opportunity. I will not go into the issues of policy and practice being different, because the PM has already articulated those very well. I would like to go into the issue of access to finance, which has been talked about, but which I think it's also important to look at some of the root causes, so that we don't try to get financing to come into the country and only to find that we still experience the same challenges. I think we have the key challenge in the country, whereby I think we've been talking about it, but I will still talk about it today. It's the issue whereby the government is not paying the private sector on time, and as a result, the private sector is not able to repay its obligations to the banks, and therefore it becomes the challenge. And today, to extend from the government, is also, you find even the international NGOs, local NGOs and international NGOs are also not paying the donors, which is very worrying when you see donor agencies not paying on time, including the UN. It's really frustrating on the side of the private sector when we are talking about access to finance, because even if you are able to access the funding, it becomes challenging to repay, to service your debts. And as a result, I think if we don't address certain issues, we will not get ahead. I think with digitalization, we stand a better chance of addressing those things, because things can be tracked easily, and we can be able to come up with solutions. So this is becoming a very serious issue, which I think if it's not addressed, the issue of access to finance will continue to be a problem. And moving on from there, I think it's an issue of construction permits, where the PM has indicated that a number of permits have been issued, which I think is very good. But I think it's also important to go back to projects that are already in existence. There are some challenges, because in the past, I think the layout of the maps and everything were not so good. And as a result, there have been some hiccups. And I think it's also important to go back to such situations because they are creating a lot of frustrations on us as a private sector, to the extent that sometimes we even have to demolish the buildings. After that, you try to find out what is the way forward. You find that issues are not being resolved. So I think that is another issue that now that we are looking at the issue of building construction, building permits, we should also revisit that. I will also want to align this with the issue of business laws that are being considered. I understand there are a lot of laws that are made to be aligned with making business easy. I don't know, I didn't hear the PM talk about the Land Act. Maybe it's included in that because there are also some issues when it comes to business, especially with the hospitality industry, whereby sometimes if you just look at Sekhavatebe, you'll find that it's a huge land that is provided there. But if it was for a private sector to come up with something of that nature, it would be difficult because of the obstacles in the law. And I think I would really appreciate that there are some reforms, but I'm just hoping that issues of double taxation that we have been talking about, the source tax and all those, I want to believe that they are included in them. And let me go into another one, which is my key interest, the tourism sector. I understand a lot is being said, and maybe we'll get to a point where we align our policy with what we do in practice, especially because with the AGUA, we can see that the manufacturing, the traditional way that we have been doing things, we are already experiencing the challenge. And maybe this will be an opportunity to say, what do we do in the tourism sector? How do we encourage it to contribute in a way that will be meaningful in the sector, especially because with the COVID, what one realizes is that there will be lesser hours that people will be working on because of the digitalization has gone very fast, and as a result, people will be able to work from wherever. So we are expecting more tourists coming to the country who will be running their businesses while they are in Lesotho. And as a result, I'm glad that we are talking about this right now because it's the right time. But I think even us as a private sector, it is the time also for us to go back to the drawing board and say, what do we do differently to make sure that we capitalize on what has to happen in the country? Because if one visits places like Tsitsikamma in South Africa, which is a place, for me, when I look at it, it's like Sekhavatebe. It's a place where you say, if we can have business concentration around places like those, or the North region, or whatever, we can be able to get tourism that is more meaningful and which is bringing much difference to the GDP. One is the issue of the COVID test. I think there is a concern that maybe the COVID tests are also very high, especially for businesses that go and source their supplies in South Africa. So when one has to do a COVID test here in Lesotho, it's very expensive, and also some tourists, because we have got to remember our tourists consist of those who are leisure tourists, and for Lesotho we also have people who are coming to visit Lesotho. So I think the issue of COVID test cost also has to be revisited. I understand there are times when you can get it at some places for free, but that is not accessible to everyone. So people who are going to get their supplies in South Africa are experiencing the challenge. I think those are the points that I wanted to bring up. Thank you very much, Ndad.
Thank you, man. Thank you for those points on those constraints, access to finance, late payments by government, issues of master plan of Maseru, some of the businesses, costs of COVID tests. Those are constraints that need to be addressed. Thank you very much for your input. And again, ladies and gentlemen, let me request that we keep our interventions as brief as possible, because I can see several hands. I would like us to conclude this session. And also remember, we should focus on how we should improve this public-private dialogue to make it more effective. We are still going to have, sector-specific sessions in the coming year. We're going to have seminars where we are going to go into specific sectors within sectors which will be addressed as we strengthen the delivery unit. So let's avoid going into constraints at this point. Let's focus on how we can improve our dialogue. I know the Honorable Prime Minister has many engagements. Let's try to keep our interventions as brief as possible. I see 4 remaining hands. Ndade Smatlane, Dr. Nko, Ndade Pafane, Ndade Marupi. Please let's focus on how we can improve our public-private dialogue and interaction so that it yields even better results. We're already seeing results, but we want better results. Ndade Smatlane, please, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ndade Chaba, and all protocol observed. Let me also applaud the Right Honorable the Prime Minister for accounting to us. This is very important. Let me be very brief and general so that I don't spend too much time in light of what we have just said, because I have 2 issues which are probably specific, but like I've said, I'll try to be very brief and general. The first one is on the issue that the Prime Minister raised regarding the inconsistencies between policy and resource allocation, that is budgeting. I think this has been going now for a very long time, and it requires that it is urgently addressed, because you can as well imagine the inefficiencies and the cost implications of having inconsistencies between policy and budgeting. It also makes monitoring and evaluation a nightmare, because you can't have any basis if policy and budgeting are inconsistent. So I think we need to look into this quite urgently. And I think in one of the budget speeches, I think that was in 2014, there was a suggestion or a proposal there that we probably need to have a national monitoring and evaluation commission. I don't know how the Prime Minister will look at this, but I think it is important, because policy and our resources become wasteful if implementation goes some different way or the opposite direction. That is number 1. Number 2, it is the company registration and licensing thereof. I think there are still some problems around this. I know the Prime Minister did point to a maximum of 5 days to register a company or issue a license, but there are still instances where registration of a company goes way into months. I don't know what is this supposed to mean, and including even the very trading license. And, I don't know what is happening, but sometimes you'll be told the system issues, system problems. So I think this needs to be addressed, because it does have some serious implications on investment. I know that Dechaba, in one of you did point to doing an institutional review in this new project. I'm not sure how quickly that can happen because honestly, going into a year registering a company is just grossly unfair. Thank you, Ndad. I thought this were the two issues that I needed to raise. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ndade Smatlane, for that, for those two interventions, and those are very, very pertinent. Thank you. Thank you, Ndade. They are noted. The consistency or inconsistency between policy and resource allocation, campaign ration, as you rightly pointed out, we're expecting the new competitiveness project to become effective around June next year. And One Business Facilitation Center is our top priority. Thank you. Dr. Nko.
Thank you very much, Dr. Taba. Let me take this opportunity also to say all protocol observed. I'll first of all want to start by congratulating the leadership of this unit in seeing that this forum has been held over time and we have arrived at some very much perennial results. I just have two comments. First one is to really congratulate the leadership of Hall in holding this dialogue with us since April this year. And we are now seeing traction in the right direction. I'm happy that Ndade Simatane actually touched on the point that I wanted to adduce this morning, that it is high time that we move this session into now a more institutionalized forum, such as a commission for governance and monitoring, because this is what we've been doing through and through since April this year. And better chances to get more structured and to see the results and the outcomes that we are actually advocating for on a daily basis. And finally, therefore, I really want to touch on the issue of effective monitoring and evaluation of this forum. So we would also
Are you still with us?
Yes, I'm still here. Am I
Okay,
audible?
please continue. Yes. Oh, no, I
Hello?
think it's a problem on my side. It was a problem
Yes,
on my side. Please proceed. Yes.
Okay, sorry about the internet. Going forward, yes. Finally, I would just say, as a recommendation to what we want to do from 2022, the information that we have gathered in 2021 really serves as a good baseline to start off next year. I would encourage if we would start developing an evaluation matrix for effectiveness of the PMDU and the efforts in PPD, so that we can now be able to do a proper stakeholder analysis. What I'm referring to is actually working with the actual numbers on the qualitative and on the quantitative reporting to actually see the traction and the movements that have actually been happening. We might have been talking theoretically in terms of we are seeing the registrations here and there, so many companies have been registered, but those things do not talk to the numbers to say, have that been sustainable? What has been the changes and what has been the outcomes? And how has it impacted the lives of ordinary Basotho? And so my understanding or my request would therefore to encourage or to press upon to now formulate a team that will start writing the baseline document to institutionalize a proper movement going forward for this program. And once again, I would like to congratulate his leadership for showing interest and care for the progress of this nation, especially for the economic progress. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ndademko. Institutionalization, critical. Strong monitoring and evaluation tools going forward. Thank you very much. Ndade Ndate Pafane. Thank you very much, Ndate Pafane, for those kind words. Thank you. Ndate Mtamarupi. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Prime Minister, and those who are helping you in His Majesty's government, ladies and gentlemen, and excellencies, the ambassadors I see there. Very quickly, well, to congratulate the Prime Minister for a good summary of what has been done since April, a rundown there on this dialogue. First, I want to talk about AGOA. For the longest time, we've been trying, when I was in a position where I was to persuade the Americans to also put some effort in nurturing productive activities. You must have something to sell in order to take advantage of the market that is being opened over there in the USA. So it's a package. Productive capacity, productive activities, and then the marketing aspect. It's a package. But maybe then we could say we will be pinning our hopes on the second compact, which we understand will be focused on the private sector to handle the productive capacity side to nurture productive activities. The second point is on access to credit. It's a package. It's not just having the source of funds, availability, but there also has to be extension services to guide those services to make sure that they will use those funds properly and successfully. And also punctuality of repayments by those who have borrowed, and really efficiency of the court system, the judiciary. It is so slow in working cases. So we need a package. It has to be a package. Then we get to tourism. Tourism, we have always hear how much it's great potential, how it's been prioritized. But when you look at the resources that are being committed to that, they are always very meager. So I think that has to be reflected into that. Private public partnerships, PPPs, are very dicey. I think people have to watch contracts very, very well. They are very nice on paper, but when it comes to execution, they can be very dicey. So there we say caution, be alert. So it's the question, really, I was impressed by all the things that have been said, but then I said change management is key. Implementation, turning those good ideas into reality. That needs skill, management skill to manage that change. Lastly, MC Ndademugu, I just want to say we observe a lot of resistance of delivery unit engaging with the NRA work, which is implementing plenary we don't know, and then you hear some of the things, you find that they are parallel actually. For instance, today I heard about National Development Planning Commission, which will be in the office of the Prime Minister. It's exactly what the NRA is proposing. I wish there could be more interaction, more working together, really, between delivery unit and the NRA, outfit. I think I will stop here and again thank the Right Honorable the Prime Minister of you, Excellencies and ladies and gentlemen, and Merry Christmas to you all and blessings in the new year.
Ndademgu.
Ndale. Yanda di kibanaka umnyamezi. Metebello ko patsure pini. Metebello.
Oh, ke a leboha ntate. Lebitso la ka ke Phetho Matla.
Ke a leboha ntate.
I'm with the task team. And
Hello. I'm back. I'm back.
Hello.
With a different device.
Hello.
I just wanted to say thank you to access to finance as a package. Yes, we are working with the World Bank and African Development Bank to strengthen the entrepreneurship ecosystem and to inject an investment fund, which will be accompanied by incubation, acceleration, the required business development services. This has already started, and we will intensify it in the coming year to ensure that access to finance is accompanied by requisite support, business development support. And again, PPPs needs a dedicated session. So it's one of the sessions that we'll also consider. And on the issue of interaction or work or collaboration between the NRA and the delivery unit, the delivery unit stands ready to work with all institutions of government. In fact, we facilitate in every institution to help facilitate the work of all institutions. We have made deliberate efforts to meet with the leadership of NRA, but we have not been successful. For a specific reason, to say where there are obstacles, we will help NRA to remove those obstacles. So, Honorable Professor Maruping, we stand ready to meet with the leadership of NRA to understand and remove those obstacles. So we are happy. Thank you. Let's be into the new year and ensure that we improve the operational efficiency of NRA. Let me move on to Metebello. Last but not least, I think she's in the UK. She's one of our champions because she attends every session that we have had. Metebello, over to you.
Oh, Nadem Cook. This is different level. I think it's representative of Bacha shutdown or the task team that is working on
okay, Daddy. I thought it was Metebello from the UK. So please continue, Daddy. The floor is yours.
Ke a leboha. Ke Phetho Matla. I'm with Ntate Bello in the task team, and we are together right now. Let me also pay my respect to the Right Honorable the Prime Minister, Your Excellencies, and everybody else. The protocol is observed. I have two issues. But first, let me also commend the Right Honorable the Prime Minister for the excellent job that he's doing now with calling the private sector on board and discussing issues. This really brings hope to us as the youth. I wanted to bring to your attention is that we have deliberated on several occasions and pleaded with the government that through the Ministry of Trade that Bacha the youth of Lesotho have a problem with becoming the new entrance in the economic system, in entrepreneurship, in bringing businesses, because so far it is very expensive to register companies to have traders licenses. The fees are just too much for the youth. So once again, we are pleading with the government that something should be done. Maybe the rates should be lowered a bit for the youth. The second issue is about the youth task team itself. We have the youth countrywide. We have delivered successfully the first phase of the summit, despite a few such setbacks here and there. But the first phase that we managed to complete was basically to incorporate the ideas of how Bacha can be assisted and getting all the information from Bacha themselves and putting it there for everybody to see. So the second phase will be now that I think we are planning to do it in January, and it will be basically saying, here is the report and here is how we can be assisted. Just all the stakeholders being put together and each one being maybe asked to contribute in different ways here and there. And then the third phase of the summit would be actually having the roadmap, the dates, the timelines on what should be done and when. So the third issue is, I don't know that the Prime Minister, how possible can it be? We have been incorporated as the task team under the Ministry of Gender, Youth, Sports and Recreation. Challenges, one, the issues of Bacha are cross-cutting. They are not only confined to the Department of Youth. We have issues with the Ministry of Trade and Industry. We have issues that we want to discuss with several other ministries, and it becomes very difficult to communicate with the rest of the ministries and other stakeholders as well, because there is a lot of bureaucracy, protocol going up. We have to talk through the Director of Youth, the Secretary of Youth, the PS, and the whole becomes very tedious. Even delivering on simple things like writing invitation letters for the summit. We wrote the letters several weeks before, but only 2-3 days before the summit did we get the right signatures from the PSs and the staff. So I don't know if we could maybe revise or reconsider our incorporation, that if one, we could report directly to the minister, or alternatively, two, we could be part, or rather be incorporated in the Prime Minister's office itself. It will make life much easier for us. In that day, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Matla. Of course, we are already working with you. We're part of, we support the you, we are still supporting you from the Prime Minister's Delivery Unit, and we are going to be supporting you going forward. And we are meeting this morning to take stock of what has been done, and we are determined to support you going forward. And I think this particular issue can be discussed in our meeting at 11 o'clock, but the Honorable Prime Minister has taken note of it. Thank you very much. And I must commend you for the hard work and the commitment to ensure that we have an action plan by January that will help us have a clear roadmap to creating sustainable jobs for the youth. Thank you very much, Mr. Matla, for that intervention. It's noted. I think, ladies and gentlemen, I will, at this juncture, request and thank you for your inputs and contributions. And I would like at this point to request the right honorable to delay his closing remarks. He'll be responding to some of the issues that have been raised. But this has been a very, very constructive conversation today. And I'm very, very impressed with the quality of the inputs that we have had from you. The Right Honorable Prime Minister, over to you, sir, to deliver your closing remarks and to wish us well in this cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mkuku. I've listened carefully to the suggestions, the valuable suggestions that have been made. I think they break branches. One on sustenance of the process, strengthening sustenance of the process that we've begun, cleaning up this process, from a systematized or systemic process. I understand that, I accept that, and it's going to take a little bit of design engineering to get it right. The second channel is on accountability, strengthening accountability. So we have taken some early steps in terms of accountability, but we need to create depth in terms of accountability, and we need to design it with precision so that accountability is effectively accountability. Relatedly, even some of the things that we think we have improved, we must continue to monitor carefully, constantly. We must not assume that things are running well. I noted the if we all recall, the presentation by LRA was quite good in terms of intentions and actual delivery, but the practice is often the practices may differ from what the senior managers are planning. And to fix it is for all of us to continue to experience, including cabinet ministers. We are on a short break right now. There are a number of services that we are providing around Christmas. We must experience those so that we can point out things that must be improved. So let's not assume that when we say we have improved services, that in practice, that is always the case. And that is the experience. What we perceive to be what we are doing is the experience that other people are encountering. So it's a big agenda, but it is worth doing it. It is an investment in future. I noted the contributions from our young people. I think, as I said earlier, we should do much to assist them, because they will turn around and become real investors. There is some really exciting things that they are doing, including just coming together and raising funding with very tiny amounts of money at a given time slice, but ultimately creating big things from group. So they need support, and there are many opportunities, particularly in technology, in creative arts, and in agriculture. There are major things that they are able to do. Those of you who managed to be at the launch of Sam Matekane Foundation will have noted the points made by the young people there, how all of a sudden they love agriculture. 14 hours a day was nothing, had to be done. That they recognize, they've been to the market and sold their year-long efforts into markets. They saw cash getting into their actions. In the launch, a spokesperson for business said, look, I am challenged very much by the support that Sam has given to the entire community, 28 households that have now inherited a source of living from their good soils at Mansunya. And that representative said, Lesotho business is now ready to go around the country and doing similar things that Matekane has done, adopting than giving them to fish. This last week, as I was out at Bolahla in Kuting, which is a roof up the town of Muyeni. It's up there. The soils are great. The young people there have come together with the entire community of 52 households have come together to move into fruit and vegetables. And what they are doing is one business job, what they're doing. They have the natural capital to do so. So these are just examples of what is possible for the youth. I'm certainly trying to link them up with the youth at Mansunyana so that they understand what others have already been able to do. So yes, sustenance, sustaining these processes, our process, not just talking about quality of services. When we say something works, and when we pat our chest, our backs, thump our chest and say something works, we have achieved this, it's not only getting through the gate, but is maintaining that level of quality, that standard of quality persistently. I thank you very much for this 17th attendance. It needs to be done going forward, and I'm satisfied with the commitment you have demonstrated and the willingness to share with us your great ideas. We don't know what to do as government, but it's easy for us to decide what to do, right or wrong, and often wrong. But it is you business, if you lead, that it is easier for us to support you in the right direction. We hold channel those resources to endeavors that are helpful for this nation. I thank you. So go to Christmas, take a break. Hopefully go into the mountains of Lesotho. Don't go out to Dubai or some other place. Don't go to the garden route. Don't taste too much foreign wine. Come back into the mountains of Lesotho. It's green right now. It's raining, but no place in Lesotho is similar to the next one. If you're going to hike, and you will enjoy a pristine, greeny landscape. In case it's not raining, you will see all the stars in the planet, or that you can see from our planet. It will be enjoyable. Let not the Germans alone, the Europeans alone, or the Americans alone enjoy this natural heritage. Go out and enjoy yourself. Yeah.
Thank you, Ndati. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of the day. Merry Christmas and prosperous New Year. Thank you, Honorable Prime Minister.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Bye. See you next year.
Thank you very much.
Have you ever walked into a store, tried to buy something nice for yourself, only to find, wait, do I have enough cash? Don't worry, CPay has got you covered. Ask a friend, Nzame, through CPay. First, request payment. Enter your friend's details. Confirm the details. Have them approve the request. Then, proceed to make the payment for your purchase using the merchant code provided. Confirm the payment. Now, you are well on your way to enjoying your purchase. At your convenience, you can deposit, send, and receive money using CPay while also taking care of your utility bills. CPay, seamless payments.
Boshokwa Merchants brings you technological cleaning solutions from the US and the UK. Victory Electrostatic Sprayers. Technology and disinfectants tried and tested in tackling norovirus, coronavirus, and other viral and bacterial pathogens in challenging environments. Kills coronavirus within 2 to 5 minutes of contact. Keeps surfaces and the environment clean and resistant to reinfection for 3 to 4 weeks. We also sell disinfectants. Our disinfectants are non-toxic, non-irritant, safe, chlorine-free, alcohol-free, and non-corrosive. Tested against a variety of pathogens including norovirus and MRSA. Persistent, prolonged, antimicrobial activity, and excellent material compatibility. To give our clients assurance, we carry out ATP testing to ensure that treatment is effective. We do a before and after, rapid method of detection of organic matter, measurement of adenosine triphosphate testing, ATP. Call us today to purchase our Victory sprayers and disinfectants for your company, schools, malls, hospitals, taxis, and trucks. For more information, call 22324660 and ask for a CDC.